Holy cow! Look at this mess! Listen to that sound! What are all these wires and knobs and blinking lights? How the heck is anyone supposed to understand what any of this is for? How am I ever going to figure this out? It's your lucky day! I'm Stiff Wiggle and I love synthesizers. Every day in the month of November, join me for Stiff Wiggle's Modular Minute. This is my modular synthesizer, and it's made of a bunch of different modules. Each one does something different, so I'll be introducing a new one every day. By the end of the month, you'll be a synthesizer freak like me. Won't you? Join me? You'll learn something, and it might even be fun. So see you in November. Welcome to Stiff's Modular Minute. Today I'm going to show you the Morphin Terrarium. Most synthesizers use some kind of oscillator to make sound, and mine is no exception. Do you want to change the volume? Too bad, you can't. You need a different module. What you can do is change the pitch. This knob here will change the pitch, or you can plug in a cable to this knob here. What else can you do? You can change the tone of it. Imagine a checkerboard, and each box on the checkerboard is its own tone. You can scan through that checkerboard with this knob horizontally, or vertically this way. And since you only have so many hands, you can plug in a cord here to do it for you. Tune in tomorrow for another Modular Minute. Welcome to Stiff's Modular Minute. Today's module is the Buffaco Rampage. This is what's called a universal dual slope generator, which somehow says exactly what it does and doesn't say anything at all. Why are you generating slopes? Well, it turns out just about anything is a slope. If you go up and down a couple hundred times a second, you have an oscillator. More often I use this thing to oscillate slowly, though. You may have heard the term LFO before. That means low frequency oscillator. So right now this thing is working as an LFO, and I can use it to change the way that other modules behave. Here's the Morphing Terrarium, an oscillator that I showed you yesterday. And right now I'm using the Rampage to change its pitch. You can also just go up and down one time, and now this thing's behaving as what's called an envelope. You can use that to give a sound its shape. But you can't change its volume. You need another module to do that. Come back tomorrow and I'll show you on Stiff's Modular Minute. Welcome back to Stiff Wiggle's Modular Minutes. Today we're talking about VCAs. That's voltage controlled amplifiers. They're the least exciting, but most important modules that synthesizers have. Without them, your synthesizer is constantly making sound. You put any signal you'd like in here, and out here you get a copy of it, but that copy is smaller. Its voltage gets reduced. How much smaller? Well, that depends what you put in here. If you put 5 volts in here, then the input and output are the same. If you put less than 5 here, then this is going to be less. If you saw in my last clip, I talked about envelopes. Those are voltages that go up and down. If we put an envelope in here and a tone down here, then we get music. It's not just for sounds, though. There's lots of other signals that are going through this synth, and we can use VCAs to shape them all. More modular magic tomorrow. See you then. It's time for Stiff's Modular Minute. Today's module of the minute is peaks. Peaks does a bunch of different stuff. Right now I have it running as an envelope. And what an envelope does is that shapes a sound over time. In this case, it's controlling the volume of that tone. Most envelopes have 4 different stages. We call them attack, decay, sustain, and release. Attack is how sharp the onset of the sound will be. And decay is how much time it takes to fall from that peak. And how far does it fall? Well, it falls to the sustain level, of course. And once the sustain phase is done, we move on to the release. And that's how we add a tail to the sound. Attack, decay, sustain, release. Those 4 knobs give you a world of sound possibilities. Tune in tomorrow for another Modular Minute. Go! I'm Stiff Wiggle, and this is another Modular Minute. Today I'm telling you all about mixers. Mixers take several signals and combine them into one. Sometimes you want to combine a whole bunch of different sounds together. A mixer will do that for you. And you can choose how much you want of each. Maybe you want a little less noise in there. Maybe you want a little more of these two. You can do that. Sometimes the things that you're combining aren't sounds themselves, but voltages from modules like LFOs, which we use to control sound. Here, I'm combining two LFOs to provide a complicated wiggle to the tone being generated by this oscillator. Here's the first LFO on its own, and here's the second on its own. And when we combine the two, this is the result. Some mixers behave in pretty ways when you abuse them too. This mixer here distorts really nicely when you slam it hard, and when you turn this knob to the right, you get an upside-down copy of your sound. More modular mayhem tomorrow. Tune in every... Hi, I'm Stiff Wiggle, and this is another Modular Minute. Today I'm going to tell you all about multiples. Now, if you're human and you wake up one morning saying, I wish I had more holes in me, you'd probably go to a body mod parlor and get pierced, right? Well, if you're a synthesizer and you said you wanted more holes in you, you'd get a multiple installed. Multiples allow you to take one of these wires and send it into multiple holes at once. Now, I know what you're thinking. Pretty great, right? Anyways, I have 1, 2, 3 oscillators humming right now. Say I wanted to control them all with the same LFO. Multiples to the rescue. This multiple is buffered. What does that mean? It means it has special circuitry to make it precise in all conditions. Cheaper multiples are less accurate, but they don't require any power or space in your case. See this thing here? That's a multiple. Isn't that handy? Tune in tomorrow for Modular Mayhem. Woo! Hi, I'm Stiff Wiggle, and this is my Modular Minute. Today we're going to talk about attenuators. Now, attenuators are as simple as modules get. They're so simple that they don't require any electricity of their own to work. See all these other modules? They're all connected at the back to a power source that's part of the case. But these ones and a couple others are so simple, they're just kind of freeballing in there. Once again, I have my oscillator humming. It has a pitch input with a 1 volt per octave scale. This LFO here wiggles 10 volts from peak to peak. That means this oscillator is going to wiggle 10 octaves when I plug this in here. That is too many octaves. So let's use my attenuator to shrink that LFO. I can just dial this knob down until we have a much more reasonable wiggle, and now our wiggles are woggling to perfection. More module manipulation every day this November. See you later. I'm Stiff Wiggle, and this is another Modular Minute. Today I'm talking about the temps utile. This is the rhythmic heart of my synthesizer. Its name means something like useful time en français. This is my master clock. A clock is what we call a module that spits out steady streams of ticks, which is how things stay in sync, like Lance Bass. This little fella can give me 6 different variations on the same pulse, which is very useful, because that's kind of how good music works. You've got a steady rhythm, keeping everything coherent, and you derive variations from that, which relate to each other by means of that common pulse. One of my favorite things it does is called Euclidean rhythms, which are a mathematical way of constructing a groove. I've got 4 of its outputs, 5 of them actually now, controlling the inputs of this drum machine over here. Tune in tomorrow for more modular moo-moos. Whee! Hi, I'm Stiff Wiggle, and you're here for another Modular Minute. Today I'm going to tell you about the Bafako Muck Slicer. You've probably noticed by now that this synthesizer doesn't have a keyboard, so you might ask, how do you play, notes? Well, a sequencer is one way. The Muck Slicer has 8 steps, and if you wire it up like I have and press this play switch, it's going to loop over those 8 notes over and over. I can change the speed. I can change the length of the sequence by patching it to itself, if 8 steps is just too many. And this knob here enables ratcheting, which sends multiple triggers per note. That sounds great on a snare drum, by the way. I can control the rate of the ratcheting from an external source using that input there. Right now I've got an LFO patched into it. I'm only just scratching the surface of this module, so hit YouTube if you want to go deep, or tune back in tomorrow when I'll show you something else. Greetings, Earthlings. My name is Stiff Wiggle, and we have another Modular Minute. Today's featured module is a great example of my Eurorack credo. Every module is good for at least 2 different things. This clock divider seems like it'd be only good for 1. It does what it says. You feed it a clock at the input here, and you get various divisions of that clock out here. However, what happens if we feed an oscillator into this? Now this is acting as a sub-oscillator. Each division produces a tone 1 octave below the previous. Check that out. It's about to get pretty funky. Stay tuned. Right on. In a minute, I usually only got time to show you one way to use each module. Tomorrow, see if you can figure out the second way. More modular madness every day in November. Hi, I'm Stiff Wiggle, and this is another Modular Minute. Today I'm going to talk about filters. When we hear a musical tone, we can talk about its pitch. Each tone has a pitch, but it usually has many different frequencies. This is a sine wave. It sounds very mellow. It only has one frequency, and it's the same as its pitch. This is a sawtooth. It sounds very bright because it has many frequencies. But we hear just one pitch. I've got my Polaris as a low-pass filter. As I sweep this knob to the left, it's removing more and more high frequencies from the sound until there are no frequencies left at all. Sweeping a filter like this, especially with the resonance cranked, that's the Q knob here, really, that gives us a synthy sound that we also recognize. I'm Stiff Wiggle, and this is another Modular Minute. Today I'm going to tell you what a quantizer does. I can take any signal and plug it into this VCO's pitch input here. This is what happens when I plug in an LFO. We get a range of different pitches, but it's not very musical. It's kind of just threatening. I got my quantizer here set to Ionian, and that's a snobby word for major scale. If I put the quantizer between the LFO and the VCO, this is what it sounds like. It's going to cover the same range of notes, but it's going to just pick out all the ones that belong to the major scale. This module is called the Ornament in Crime. I've shown you like 2% of what it does. It's so versatile, so powerful, and so nice. It's so nice, in fact, that I've bought it twice. More modular multiplication every day in November. I'm Stiff Wiggle, and this is another Modular Minute. I always admire an unconventional solution to an age-old problem, like mixing, for example. You can only use a typical mixer, like one of these ones here that I showed you in episode 5. But I don't really see the fun in that. I like using the jumble henge here, which is much less normal. You plug something in on the left side, comes out the left. You plug something in on the right side, comes out the right. You plug something in on the top row, sounds really bright. You plug something in at the bottom, the bass is really tight. I like this one because it's very tactile, very compact. Great for my live performance case here. More modular motions every day in November. Stiff Wiggle here with another Modular Minute. The drummer from another mother. What a monster of a module here. This combines a bunch of simpler bits that I've shown before in service of a percussion generator that slams so hard. We've got two oscillators which are connected to each other so the state of one can affect the other. That opens up the sound design immensely. Oscillators get combined with a white noise source here into a creamy, screamy, legendary Moog filter. We've got a bunch of different envelopes for the oscillator pitch, the filter cutoff, and the VCA for volume. Tying it all together is the 8-step sequencer with knobs for pitch and volume. When I use the D, F, A, M, I don't make a plan. I let it go wherever it takes me. More modules every day, November. And this is another Modular Minute. Let's face it, life is hard, and one of the hardest parts about life is making choices. Sometimes it's best just to leave things up to chance. And when you have the woggle bug in your case, you have the perfect flavor of randomness for whatever the situation. The woggle bug in its natural habitat. To demonstrate what it's capable of, I'm going to connect it to the pitch input of this oscillator like I have in the past. What kind of chaos are we looking for today? Here, we have stepped random voltages. And when the knob is like this, they are uniformly randomly distributed. Where are my statistics minors at? Turning the knob this way gives some method to the mayhem, if that's what you're after. This output here smoothly connects those random voltages, and the output labeled woggle, well, that one woggles. More modular Muppetry tomorrow. I'm Stiff Wiggle, and this is another Modular Minute! Today I'm going to show you an effect module that Roland used to make. If you're a guitarist, you're familiar with delay. If you're not, delay is just a pretentious word for echo. You play a sound through here, and you get a bunch of copies of it. Now, what's special about a modular delay is that you can change the way it behaves by patching it up. I can change the delay time by hand, which has this lovely effect on the pitch. Or I can plug an LFO in here and then it's going to be constantly shifting. These modules came with an app for your tablet or computer. Oh, stop it. So that you can completely change their functionality. I used to use this as an oscillator and this as a filter. These darlings have been discontinued, so I'm pleased as pie to own the whole set. More modular munchkins tomorrow. I'm Stiff Wiggle, and this is another Modular Minute. Today I'm going to tell you about a module called the Orgon Accumulator. What's that do? So, what have we got here? We have 3 different oscillators humming together in unison, corresponding to the yellow, blue, and red knobs here. We don't hear them all at once though. We scan between them. So watch the lights as I twist this knob. Now we're getting a mix of yellow and blue. You could call that green, I guess. Now it's just blue. Now it's blue and red, and purple. Each of those individual oscillators has its own bank of tones, and we don't need to scan by hand either. We can use an LFO as we have before. We can blend this mix with another oscillator and change that one's shape and frequency. Doesn't get wild with what they call effects, but there's so much more than that. Check this out. More modular mundanities tomorrow. Hi, I'm Stiff Wiggle, and this is another Modular Minute. Today, let's look at clouds. You put a sound into these holes here, and then sound comes out of these holes here. Clouds chops up the input sound into tiny little slices. We call them grains. And it spiffs up and rearranges those grains in nifty little ways that sound pretty amazing. Here's a sound I'll be running through clouds to show you what it does. Just a normal little sound, nothing out of the ordinary. Through clouds, though, it might sound something like this. Right? Or like this. Or... Things get really interesting when you modulate these parameters with a cable, though. I can plug this into here, and that has the same effect as me tweaking this knob by hand like this. More modular matchsticks tomorrow. Hi, I'm Stiff Wiggle, and this is another Modular Minute! Today we unleash the Kraken. This module has a little digital brain, and it's convinced that it's a snare drum. Now, who am I to tell it otherwise? If you want to make a snare drum sound, you got 3 basic approaches. 1, you can combine oscillators and noise and synthesize a snare drum sound yourself. That works, but it doesn't sound very realistic. The second approach is to take a recording of a snare drum, sample it, and then play that back. And that falls apart when you want to do like a flam or a drum roll. It sounds like a machine gun. This module takes the third approach. It uses something called physical modeling. It's running a little computer program that simulates all of the characteristics of a snare drum, like the shell of the drum. You can change the damping. You can change its pitch. And with all these settings, you can dial in the drum of your dreams. More modular machine guns tomorrow. Greetings, you beautiful earthbound creatures. I'm Stiff Wiggle, and this is another Modular Minute. Yesterday I showed you physical modeling. I showed you a module that simulates a snare drum. Today I'm going to show you a module that can make all sorts of tonal instruments. This is called Elements by Mutable Instruments, and if you can bow it like a violin, blow it like a flute, or strike it like a drum, Elements can simulate it. Even if it's realistic or otherworldly, Elements has got you covered. The world of sound within just one module. More modular imaginations tomorrow. Greetings, Munchkins. It is I, Stiff Wiggle. Are you ready to join me on a journey to the depths of mayhem? The Basilis Iteratus altar is the bass drum from hell. Join me on this journey. It has 3 different synthesis modes. The relatively tame skin mode is what we're hearing right now. And this is the violently ruinous liquid mode. And then the positive cacophony of the metal mode remains. This thing can do all sorts of sounds, from tame to completely violent. I use it as a bass drum because why not? It's what it's best for, in my humble opinion. The Basilis Iteratus altar. Making sure we got it right this time, by Noise Engineering. More modular morphing tomorrow. What's that crazy rhythm? I'm Stiff Wiggle, and this is another Modular Minute. Today I'm going to show you a module that I built. I'm not an electronics wizard. I like to dabble every now and then, but usually I leave that magic up to the professionals. Most of the modules here in my synthesizer are built by professionals or very enthusiastic amateurs, but this one here was built by yours truly. A friendly fellow named Gijs came from the Netherlands and showed us how to build this module he designed called the VU Perk. VU as in VU, and perk is in percussion. Remember the stereo that your grandpa had that had the needle that danced like this? This is one of those. And we put a piece of brass in front, and that needle slams into it. We got a sensor attached to that brass, which converts it into electricity, and we translate that into sound. Isn't that magnificent? More modular magic tomorrow. Hi, I'm Squiggle. This is another Modular Minute. Today we're going to taste the rainbow, the quantum rainbow. You've probably heard of white noise before, but did you know there's an entire, in fact, rainbow of colors of noise that we can sample? Here is the white noise that you're familiar with. I've got this going through a filter whose cutoff is swept by an LFO. This is white noise. It's got equal intensity in all frequencies. Pink noise rolls off the high frequencies a bit. Red noise rolls off the highs even further. Gray sounds perceptually flat. Blue is higher, and purple is higher still. And then we have the very rare and esoteric quantum. More modular madness tomorrow.
3, 2.
Hi, I'm Stiff Wiggle, and this is another Modular Minute! Come with me into the patch cable jungle and let's find the sample drum by Erica Synths. I was talking a couple episodes ago about ways of making a snare drum. Number 2 was to use a recording of a snare drum and just play it back. That works great. I like to use this for my hi-hats and my cymbals. But really, you can put anything on here, like weird loops. Anything at all. You can even have this do stuff like loop. You can play it backwards. Oh, do backwards. This thing is capable of a great many things, and I'm just scratching the surface. Get the sample drum if you need to play samples in your system. More tomorrow. Well, what? Stiff Wiggle in the house with another modular mini, y'all. I'm here today to show you a rhythm that's great for pounding out a funky, fresh beat. It's called the rhythm. Sometimes you want to program in something with great levels of specificity and control, and sometimes you just want to pound out a beat. The rhythm is great for the latter. Bound, 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 and loop. There you go. You got a rhythm right there. You can do more than that. You can overdub it with just that easy. It's got a bunch more other features too, but that really covers the basics of what you can do with it. You can, if you can't drum for shit, you can have it snap your crappy beats to the grid for perfection. That's the rhythm, and I'm Stiff Wiggle with another Modular Minute. Ciao! Greetings everyone, I'm Stiff Wiggle, and this is another Modular Minute! Well, that's a big knob you got there, buddy. What can you do with that? Today, the name of the game is frames. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 knobs here, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 patch cables connected over here to 1, 2, 3, 4 of clouds as inputs. As I tweak this knob, watch the 4 green lights here, and you can see that I'm controlling 4 different parameters with one single gesture. Makes it possible to do sophisticated modulations with a simple gesture. And if I don't want to tweak that knob with my hand, we will put electricity to service to do the tweaking for us. More modular modulations tomorrow and every day November. I'm Stiff Wiggle, and this is another Modular Minute. Today I'm showing you the Ultra Fold. This is a wave folder. In the past I showed you what a filter does. That removes frequencies from a signal. By wave folding you can add frequencies into one. Now how does that look? I've got my oscilloscope right up here. This is me cranking the fold knob. Watch the ends flip down, and then eventually if I keep going, those folds are going to fold themselves, and that just sounds very bright now, doesn't it? It's got much more high frequencies than the signal we started with. I can also feed back the output into the input with positive or negative feedback, and I can distort this for truly brutal sounds. More modular mayhem tomorrow. I'm Stiff Wiggle, and this is another modular minute. I'm upset. I had a exciting demonstration plan today, but the module that I was intending to show doesn't seem to be working right, so we're gonna go with plan B. One thing about a synthesizer like this is that she runs hot. And I'm talking about the voltages that you use inside of here. They're much higher than, say, the headphone jack on your phones. If you want to try and connect an external device to this synthesizer, you can use the amp pad module here. And that will boost those external signals to match what the synth is expecting. If you want to go the other direction, the section on the bottom here will take one of these high voltages and reduce it to something compatible with another device. More module tomorrow. Hi, I'm Stiff Wiggle. Delicious. Alright, where were we? Today I am showing you my biggest module, but you don't get to hear it. You can tune in tomorrow if you want to hear how it sounds. To call this one module is kind of misleading. It's actually 5 different modules under one faceplate. Over here we have a USB to MIDI to CV converter, so you can connect your computer or any other MIDI device to the synthesizer. Here we have a dual oscillator and some utility modules in the middle here. This is a dual universal slope generator plus dual filter, and over here we have a 4-channel mixer to cap it all off. Tune in tomorrow to hear how it sounds. Hi, I'm Stiff Wiggle, and this is your final modular minute. I had big plans to wrap things up with a little bit of excitement and do a little live stream for everyone showing what I can do with this thing, but I have completely run out of juice. I have no gas left in the tank, so I'm just going to wrap things up with some modesty here. This is a module I used in almost every single patch that I've shown you to date. It's called the Batumi. It is 4 LFOs. Count them 1, 2, 3, 4. Each channel is a vertical strip here. I can control the speed of the LFO with this slider like this, which corresponds with the rate of the flashing, and we have a sine, saw, and square output there. Thank you all so much for following me along on this journey.